Now we're rocking. Today it's Monday, 31st of May, 2021, and somewhat surprisingly out there is actually sunshine, and I actually wore shorts in the built-up area, which I know is pretty shocking. And generally, it seems like summer might finally be on its way. Of course, as soon as I say that, I've cursed it. Today, I'm going to be talking about a band that I love that not enough people love. Um, and I have to remind you that there's going to be an awful lot of facts relating to this next band, which means I inevitably am going to get some of them wrong. The band are The Wedding Present. Today I'm going to be talking about their 1988 compilation album, Tommy, which I regard to be their first album because everything on it was written and recorded before the release of their debut album, even though it was released after their debut album being George Best. Now, the Wedding Present formed in 1985 and have had one constant and sole golden thread that runs through the entire of their career so far, which is, although career is a hesitant word to use around that, which is David Gedge, who, according to John Peel, has written some of the finest love songs in the rock and roll era. And if you disagree with me, you are wrong and I am right, is what John Peel said, and he's absolutely right. There is nobody, I think, that can write a love song as good as David Gedge, although perhaps love song might not necessarily be the word. They're all songs about relationships. Now, the band's discography is huge, it's complicated, there's an awful lot of material to go through, so I suspect I'm going to be talking about them for quite some time. Including the time between 1997 and 2004, when there was also a band called Cinerama, and The Wedding Present was somewhat inactive. David Gedge has released 54 LPs, including, I think, 17 live tapes, 14 separate live albums, 78 singles, 13 albums of radio sessions, one box set with 24 official members in The Wedding Present alone. And that's not including the members that joined for a short tour or were in the band for a fortnight because a drummer had to go and do something else in his day job. The other thing around The Wedding Present is they are not a huge band. I really wish they were an absolutely enormous band because I think they deserve it and I think they're good enough to be absolutely huge. And when I'm baffled when some acts are absolutely huge and The Wedding Present aren't. But I understand why, because there is something about The Wedding Present sound which is quite abrasive. It's quite rough. It's almost like sandpaper. And I'm always reminded of a quote by I think it's Bobby Gillespie from Primal Scream. He was asked how he felt about Rocks by Primal Scream not being number one and Whitney Houston being number one. And he said, well, it's Whitney Houston, so it doesn't count. And the idea, the implication when later asked about it was, she technically might be an absolutely amazing singer, but she doesn't mean it. She could be reading a shopping list. Obviously, The Cure did read a shopping list when they sang So What, about a cake, ice, and decorating set in 1979 on the Three Imaginary Boys album. And maybe that was part of the point. Anyway, enough of my yakking. You want to hear about Tommy. Now, Tommy was released on, I think, the 13th of July, 1988. I have bought this album many times. I have at least 5 copies of it. All of them, by the way, are a little bit different. So I'm not the kind of guy that there's a guy that buys every single copy of the Velvet Underground's debut LP that he sees, and that means he's got something like 800 copies of the Velvet Underground's debut LP. I only buy versions of albums when they're different. I have seen more copies of Tommy than I've seen at some Wedding Present gigs, by the way, in terms of people. And I am not going to pretend for a second that I buy every copy that I see. I just buy the ones that are slightly different. So Tommy is a compilation album which was released in 1988, but every song on it was recorded by the end of 1986, I think. And it features the first 4 Wedding Present singles, none of which, apart from one song, were on an album at that point. So when the Wedding Present first started, like a lot of bands, is that you go through the process of releasing singles, you fund them yourselves. Like the Wonder Stuff funded their first single with a football pools win, for example. Larry Mullen borrowed £500 off his parents to record and release the first U2 single. So when bands first start, sometimes the idea is they can't even get signed, or perhaps they're not interested. There are, there's halls of rejection slips from labels saying, I'm terribly sorry, but this new band Oasis aren't what we're looking for at this particular point in time. And the bands start off on their own. And what that means is two things. Firstly, they have complete artistic control. The second one is that it's all done in a bit of a haphazard fashion. You don't have the money to go in and record an album, so you record 2-3 songs at a time. The recordings are done quickly, they're scrappily, it's on cheap equipment, it's on cheap studios, and that comes through in every inch of the songs. Is that you just think, I'm not, given the luxury of time and money, the albums would be very different. But Tommy is very much a snapshot, a moment in time of a burgeoning indie band being born publicly in front of your eyes, and the first 4 singles which they made. Now, the other thing I want to point out, by the way, is the Wedding Present hardly ever have any demos. Because they always saw the radio sessions that they did for the BBC, for local radio, and later on international radio as kind of like demo versions of the songs. So they would play the songs in rehearsal, they'd work them up to a certain point, and then they'd record them. And the radio session versions, or nowadays it's YouTube sessions or so on, were the definitive demo recordings of the songs that the band had. And no one, I think, ever really grasps. I think maybe now you do, but at the time, John Peel was on the radio every night, Monday to Thursday, 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. My education came in a huge chunk from John Peel. I have more John Peel session albums than I have of any other kind of radio versions, which I've got, and I frequently listen to them just to go, well, what is he listening to now? And I mean, as he sometimes he'd play the New Order song, sometimes he went off New Order, he'd bring bands in that you'd never heard of before. If John Peel played it, there's a good guarantee that there was something about it that was interesting and worth investigation. Not always the case, by the way. I've still, despite many efforts, every time I've heard The Fall, I'm just baffled. I just go, I can't. My brain, no. I just can't understand why people would like The Fall. Although I did have the misfortune, I think, of seeing them in 1994, and according to reports, that was one of their less amazing periods. Yeah, I don't understand why, but the only band that had anywhere near the same number of Peel sessions as The Fall was The Wedding Presents. And that gets us back to the subject which you should talk about to start off with. So Tommy is a compilation album that reflects the first 4 singles by The Wedding Presents. And the first one of those singles is Go Out and Get 'Em Boy. Now, this is not the original 1985 500 copy self-made version. This is the 29 reissue, or the 2019 reissue of the single. And the 2019 reissue, by the way, benefits because it's not about £150 to buy. This version was sold by Optic Nerve Records. It was pressed on, I think it's a white vinyl, largely replicating the original 7-inch single, apart from the necessary copyright information. Came with a postcard, and also came with a fold-out poster, if I remember correctly, although I haven't opened this. And the fold-out poster features the sleeve art advertising the first 7-inch, which, by the way, the design for the 7-inch was a photograph cut out of a newspaper, plus the band using a Letraset stencil kit to do all of the artwork. There was a second 7-inch of this that was later pressed, I think, by City Slang Records, that had a different cover, and they didn't know that it was going to go into a different cover when it came out. So the version of Go Out and Get Them Boy on here is the same version that's on the LP. The B-side, The Moment Before Everything Spoils Again, is also on Tommy, and Tommy is a very faithful chronological journey through the band's early singles. Now, for this, on the A-side, the drums were played by not the band's actual drummer, Sean, but played by Julian, who played drums on the A-side, because I think Sean was perhaps not up to speed or not confident enough in the studio. But there you are, The Wedding Present's first 7-inch single. If you are getting into The Wedding Present, by the way, my advice is stop, because, as I've said before, there are something like 42,000 wedding present LPs and releases. It's a very expensive addiction to get into. Possibly the only thing which is almost as expensive is buying either luxury cars or, David Bowie LPs. Anyway, go out and get 'em, boy. Was released on as an indie single. Sold out its 500 copies very quickly. Repressed on City Slang. Another 1,000 copies in circulation. The second single, Once More, and backed with At the Edge of the Sea. This was perhaps a slightly different release, again on the band's Reception Records label. This is also again the 2019 repressing on white vinyl, again replicating the sleeve artwork fairly faithfully, alongside a postcard and a poster. I think you can buy these still from Optic Nerve for something like £10. So if you're the kind of person that absolutely has to have a record, as you've probably gathered, I am one of those people. You can go and get them from here. So the A's and the B's, Once More, fantastic song. Very fast, very pacey, brilliantly evocative lyrics. And as I said before, David Gedge is great at writing love songs and songs about relationships, but what he was trying to do with some of these early songs, he had to still find his, definitive artistic voice. So there's some songs which are about not necessarily politics as such, but around political kind of situations and circumstances, and perhaps some of those lyrics they don't feel as authentic, they don't feel as real, which sounds horribly bitchy, but they don't. Now, the two singles there, Go Out and Get 'Em, Boy, and Once More, once again fell out of circulation and sold very, very quickly. And Reception Records, because they were making this stuff up as they were going along, released a 12-inch edition of Once More, with Go Out and Get 'Em, Boy on the B-side, effectively a compilation of the two 7-inch singles. There's a 12-inch called Don't Try and Stop Me Mother. Now, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth here, but if you were going to do a Smiths bootleg LP, this is very probably what it would look like, apart from the fact that it would have the word The Smiths in the top corner. There's a cliche that the wedding present are Smiths fans' second favourite band. That's not strictly true, because some people also liked James, who were also at one point regarded to be, Smiths fans' second favourite band. But this is the first 12-inch which came out, pretty battered, to be honest. But then no one was really thinking about the long-term prognosis for these releases at the time. The third single, and the band had a difference of opinion, it's fair to say, about what should be the A or the B side. So here is You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, backed with This Boy Can Wait. And You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, by the way, takes its title from the sign off on a letter which I think the band's guitarist Pete may have had at the time, but they couldn't decide which song was A and which song was B. Eventually they went for You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends. The image there is what looks to be someone playing a guitar in a kind of cartoon fashion, which is also backed up with a wider angle version that's on the B side of the 7-inch. Again, all of these 7-inches are quite affordable, actually. One reason being wedding present aren't as big as I want them to be. The other reason being is all of the songs are on Tommy as well. This also came out for the first time with a contemporaneous 12-inch release, which is here. Again, backed with This Boy Can Wait and You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, so flipping the A's and B's there, and then also an extra track called Living and Learning on the 12-inch. Now, if you're going to get original wedding present 12 inches, Tommy complicates the story of the band a little, because some of the versions of some of the songs aren't the single versions at all, but radio session versions, as I've said before. So when you look at this, for example, and you look at the inner sleeve, luckily my copy hasn't got an original inner sleeve, so I'm going to have to pick that up later on. But some of the versions of some of the songs, such as Living and Learning, are radio session versions and not the versions that are on the singles, so you do need to get the singles, I'm afraid. And the fourth single that was released was My Favourite Dress, probably one of the most well-known of their songs, actually. is My Favourite Dress. The version that's here on the 7-inch, this is the original Reception Records release, much like this version here of This Boy Can Wait, is this 7-inch has a different arrangement to the track than the album version that's on George Best. They rewrote the ending and they wrote a new ending to My Favourite Dress when it went on the album. So the A side, My Favourite Dress, is just a great song. Actually, there's something about the lyric about seeing a stranger's hand on My Favourite Dress, which is really kind of sad and evocative. And if you remember, like your first relationships, there was probably in your first relationships, if they were anything like mine, my first relationship was an absolute car crash, not through my choice, by the way. But there was a point where things like being exclusive and faithful were not necessarily in the vocabulary of the person that I was in a first relationship with. That one didn't go very well, actually. I'm very glad that relationship came to a natural conclusion. But yeah, there was a point when I was aware that perhaps the person that I thought I was in a relationship maybe thought that they were in relationships with people that weren't me. That was a difficult moment. Obviously, I was younger and everything was very different then. Than my first experiences of relationships were perhaps not as simple or as straightforward. So, not wishing to give you, the potted version of my life history. I don't think anyone's interested in that. Hell, I'm not interested in half of it. I barely give any thought to it, apart from when I'm talking about it on things like this, because it's part of my history. My Favourite Dress is an amazing song, and I'm now able to experience that song without putting it in the context of difficult personal experiences that I may or may not have had. Here is the 12-inch version of My Favourite Dress, by the way. Let's get back onto the subject, which has the same sleeve art as you've got on the 7-inch, but as you can see, it's shrunk down and placed inside a box. Now, My Favourite Dress is backed with, if I remember correctly, and this is where I have to open it to find out, Every Mother's Son and Never Said. Never Said is a song that the band have hardly ever played live since. Now, a lot of these songs on Tommy are not my favourite wedding present songs, and I'll completely straight up tell you the reason they're not my favourite wedding present songs is because a lot of the wedding present songs these days were played at breakneck speed. It's kind of like listening to a heartbroken Ramones fronted by a just jilted geography teacher. And that is, in, by the way, no way a criticism. Totally love the band, but I think certainly when bands start off, they're making music in small rooms with not very much money, and often the only way you can play a song is to play it louder than the band that are playing next door. And next door, inevitably, it's a shit metal band with a name like Big Dog's Cock or something equally terrible like Nun Raper, and so therefore the only way when you're playing in a rehearsal room and not to be listening to someone playing yet another fucking version of Red Hot Chili Peppers Under the Bridge or perhaps Creeping Death is to play faster and louder, much like the instructions that George Lucas gives everybody when he's filming Star Wars. Faster, more intense. And that's pretty much what they did. So all of these songs are fast, they're loud, they're heavy. Sometimes, you put it on 33, this LP, and you think, have I put it on 45 by mistake? Because it's fucking fast. Which, of course, became part of the band's characterization. Part of the band's sound is to play fast, loud, jangly, but kind of like serrated edge, hard indie rock music, and no one really sounded like them. A lot of indie music, especially at this point, it was regarded as a little bit twee. There was a lot of very spindly guitar lines. Some of the lyrics were a bit anodyne, whereas this was all very much like, you tore out my heart and I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to do it in an erudite way. Tommy. Now this copy, by the way, if you look extremely closely at the front, you'll see that it has the words discard written on it. This is a rejected copy, a discarded copy of Tommy, which was purchased from Birmingham Library in, I think, 1990. Now, I got a lot of my records from Birmingham Library. I know my brother did as well. Highlight of my week, actually, I think it might have been Tuesdays when Birmingham Library did their discards. So when a record or a CD hadn't been out for a while, or perhaps they just had a limit, they could only have a certain number of LPs, they would have like a big rack of discounted LPs and CDs. LPs were £1, I think CDs were £2. And they'd refresh that every Tuesday. And so my brother would go in every Tuesday after work, or maybe some Tuesdays, and he'd buy LPs, which I knew I wanted to get. So sometimes I'd take records out of the library, I'd listen to them, I'd love them, I'd tape them, and then the version that I own later on is the exact same copy that the first copy I ever heard that I got out of Birmingham Library. Birmingham Library has now been demolished and replaced by something else. I thought Birmingham Library was a fantastic example of architecture, but it did look like it had been designed by Star Wars platform video gamers in the 1990s doing a level of Dark Forces. It felt and was designed in exactly that same kind of approach. Sometimes I was walking around Birmingham Library, I was half expecting to bump into a Dark Forces stormtrooper, because it just felt like a video game level. It was very square, very flat, and very weirdly designed. Obviously, I never went in there with a lightsaber or anything. I never bumped into any Star Wars characters. So, in one respect, I was totally wrong. But obviously, the fact that they used, I think, a tube station to substitute for an Empire base in Rogue One kind of makes me think that perhaps I was on the right track thinking about it like that. Anyway, this copy from Birmingham Library, £1 well spent. And I've definitely got £1 worth of effort out of that over time. Now, there were some other releases around about the same time. This one was released in 1986. Not that many people will know this. This is one of the Peel Sessions first 12-inch, featuring the 4 Peel Session tracks that I think later turned up on the Tommy LP. I don't know why I bought it, because all the tracks were on the LP, but I'm the kind of guy that buys everything. So this is Strange Fruit number 9, by the way. Strange Fruit Records had a deal with the BBC. This is the first 9 Peel Session EPs that they released. New Order was number 1. That's not necessarily a surprise. And this one, all the Peel Session LPs, when they were initially released, came in this format. So they had just the name of the band up the top and a list on here of all the bands that had ever done a Peel Session on here. So right away I can look at it and I can see Adam and the Ant, News Floats, Thin Lizzy, Beloved, New Order, Gene Vincent. We've got a Fuzzbox and we're going to use it. I'm just going to quickly go through someone else. The Nice, I think I've heard of them. Attila the Stockbroker. Yeah, David Bowie right there at the bottom. Yeah, whatever happened to him, eh? Might have had a bright future. You never know. Anyway, Peel Sessions 12 inches. These were often absolutely essential purchases, licensed from the BBC to Strange Fruit Records, and they looked like they came out of a factory that kind of threw out generic black and white sleeves, where the only thing that was different was the name of the band on the front and the name of the songs on the back. It might as well have been out of a factory. Another Sessions 12-inch that came out, this is Strange Fruit number 16, by the way, was the second session here. This one was recorded on the 20th of April 1986, so that's over a year before George Best came out. And this has Everyone Thinks He Looks Daft, Shatner, My Favourite Dress, and I Found That Essence Rare, the Gang of Four song. This was number 16, so it's the Strange Fruit Evening Sessions section. So, but this was released, see if I can find a copyright date on here, 1988. So this came out about the same time as Tommy did. And it kind of expanded upon that. But often these were the only places to get some of the cover versions, get alternate demo versions of the album. So Tommy, I think, is a really good LP. I'm going to talk about, this is the 2019 reissue, which was only made available in the indie stores. This, if I remember correctly, is a white vinyl version of the album. And here we've got an inner sleeve, which of course someone who'd taken my copy out from the library had obviously stolen previously. So here is a white vinyl of the LP. It gives you a very clear idea of what's going on. So this LP compiles a selection of recordings from the Wedding Present's first 2 years. Track 5 was recorded for the Andy Kershaw Show, not one of those two which has been on the previous 12 inches. Tracks 7 to 9 were recorded for the BBC Radio 1's John Peel Show, first broadcast on the 26th of February 1986, which means that 3 of the songs on this 12-inch are on the Tommy LP, and I can't be bothered to look up which one isn't. But what you will find is that of the singles tracks which are on here, for example, tracks 7 to 9, so I think Living and Learning is the version on Tommy is a radio session, not the version that was on the single. And then You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, Felicity and What Becomes of the Broken Hearted. So You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, again, is a radio session version. The single version is not the one that's on the LP. So if you want to get the original single version of You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends and Living and Learning, you have to go and get the original 12 inches if you're a vinyl obsessive like me. I'd like to pretend that I'm not, but I am. Records are the best form of technology. Now, CDs. Give you an idea of some of the CDs at least. This is an original Reception Records. Well, actually, this is a Cooking vinyl, actually. 1997 version of Tommy. It is in no way different from any other version of it. It's got the 12 songs on in order and probably some explanatory text. Here is the Strange Fruit radio session. So I showed you the 12-inch earlier on. Here is the CD version of that, featuring Felicity, What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, and This Boy Can Wait. And What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, by the way, later reappeared on the George Best album in a slightly different form under the name It's What You Want That Matters. So it's not a new song at all. There was also a compilation. So when I talked about the live tapes earlier on, the Wedding Present released 17 live tapes, which you could buy directly off the band and presumably duplicated by someone in the band on a Ghetto Blaster. They were issued on CD. So far, the reissue program stalled in 1993, but I think 14 of the 17 live tapes have been issued on CD. So there are there's two. There's 2 live tapes which haven't yet made it out, Portsmouth and Strasbourg, but they are available if you know where to find them on the internet. Everything else has been released on a CD. So this is one of the first live tape compilations. This features 2 live shows. One from Leicester at the Polytechnic on the 5th of May 1987. Leicester Polytechnic was where I went to university. And the second one was at the Mulchan, Alabama Hall on the 22nd of November 1987. So you can think of Leicester Polytechnic as being the Tommy show and Munich as being the George Best show, which has a very different set list actually. The band were writing so many songs at such an incredibly fast pace at this point. You know, they played 14 songs in Leicester. They had 18 by the time they got to Munich, and they added a couple of extra ones in as well, which they hadn't done before. These are readily available, quite cheap, I think. They're probably deleted. If you're umming and ahhing about buying them, buy them now, because there's no guarantee you'll be able to find them again. And by the way, all the radio sessions were later released in 2006 on this box set, which was affectionately known as the Peel Sessions, but it features a number of the band's radio sessions. So this features, I think, session 1 from the 11th of February 1986, which means that's at least the 3rd time I've bought it. The session from the 26th of October 1986, the session 3 from the 3rd of March 1987, and session 4 from the 26th of October 1987. Now, I've forgotten to bring out, there are a couple of evening session compilation LPs, which also have other radio sessions on, but those radio sessions I will address when I talk about other albums, specifically George Best and Bizarro and Sea Monsters Sea Monsters, Hit Parade, Watusi, and so on, because of those cover multitudes of periods of time. But if you're only going to buy one version of the original release of Tommy, get this one. So this is the in 19 no, not 19, I've lost a couple of decades, 2014, The Wedding Present released 4-disc expanded edition versions of their early albums, from Tommy all the way through to Saturnalia. And there were 4 discs. Disc 1 was the album plus some B-sides. Disc 2 was radio sessions and some extra tracks and maybe some demos. Disc 3 was always a live show, and Disc 4 was a DVD, and it contained an interview, some promotional videos that were available, some live television appearances, and one new track recorded acoustically in David's living room in 2014. These are really difficult to get now. They printed more copies than they had available to than they had interest for. All the remainder copies were offered to David Gedge to sell through the Wedding Presents web shop, and he looked at the money and he said, well, look, I don't really want to buy them because there's no guarantee I'll ever sell them, which means the only place to get these 3 CD and plus DVD editions these days is to find second-hand or unsold copies that are available on Discogs. Some of them are very, very expensive to get. Because the demand wasn't there. But these are absolutely the best way, the fantastic way to do a reissue. £13.99 for a 4-disc set is pretty damn good, especially considering you've got the album, you've got the radio sessions, you've got a lovely booklet. I don't even know. I think of this as a cheap version of an unboxing video. You've got a lovely booklet with all the lyrics in, all the photos, pictures of all the sleeves, explanatory text there, plus you've got the live show, and then you've got the DVD with an interview. This is really the way to do a reissue, and I wish more bands did 3 CD plus 1 DVD sets, as opposed to getting you to pay £84.99 for 5 CDs. Now we do have to talk about the radio sessions, just so that you've got an idea of what's going on here. As I've mentioned before, the additional extra tracks on the CD here feature Living and Learning, the alternate version, and You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, the alternate version. But those aren't really the alternate versions, because there are 2 alternate versions on there, by the way, just in case it gets complicated. If you want to get the original single recordings of Living and Learning and You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, they're on here, alongside versions which were recorded for compilation albums. And there's also, as I've mentioned before, the Peel Sessions box set here, was released by Sanctuary Records in 2006, early 2007, the week that Sanctuary Records went out of business. Not all the orders for this box set were, I think, fulfilled to the stores. Lots and lots of people probably wanted to buy it and couldn't buy it because you couldn't find it in the shops. It's really, really difficult to get. It took me years to find a copy of this. I found it on a shelf in a second-hand shop in Manchester about 4 years after it came out, and this is a brilliant box set of radio sessions, by the way. But almost all of the BBC radio sessions are on CD 2, so that's the Andy Kershaw session, which makes up one of the tracks on here, which means that you get, I think, Living and Learning in the same version, the same recording, the same performance twice on here. You also get the first John Peel session, which I've mentioned before, the Evening Show session from 1986, the John Peel session from October 1986 as well. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the definitive expanded version of the album. Also, if you buy all of the reissues of The Wedding Present, it creates a picture on the spine of the Reception Records rose, which you see a tiny fraction of here. Of course, that's not all. There is one more thing which I need to mention about Tommy, and that is in 2018, the then current lineup of the band, that's David Gedge, Terry DeCastro, Danielle Wadey, and Charlie Layton on drums, went back into the studio and re-recorded the album. This is the Indies version of it, which is, I think this is on blue vinyl. Yeah, blue vinyl. Went into the studio, Monmouth Studios. No, Monnow Valley, which is Rockfield in Wales, and I think Monnow Valley, which is Rockfield, is also the same studio where the Wonder Stuff recorded part of Never Loved Elvis, and I think it might also be the studio where the Queen recorded, or more correctly, the Queen, not the Queen, Queen recorded Bohemian Rhapsody, which is pretty exciting actually. But they recorded 17 songs in, I think, 10 days or so. The Wedding Present operate quickly and efficiently because they're a tightly, finely honed unit, including a number of cover versions, a number of new material, and the 12 songs that went on Tommy. And this time, recorded Tommy as an album. So Tommy is a compilation record, and it's always been a compilation record. It was a compilation record that was made out of cheaply and hastily recorded performances in cheap studio rooms by an embryonic form of the band while they were learning to write songs. 30 years later, the band went into Rockfield Studios in Wales. They re-recorded it, this time with the luxury of more time as a dedicated album. Which meant that they had the same lineup, the same recording sessions, the same songs. They did them all in one go. And this is a brilliant, brilliant re-recording of the album. So if you listen to Tommy and you think, well, it sounds cheap, it sounds fast, and it sounds like it was recorded in a hurry by people that didn't have very much money, that's exactly true. That's exactly what happened with Tommy. And in 2018, they went into the studio, since they were playing Tommy live and touring Tommy, they went into the studio and re-recorded it and released this in 2019. I love this album. I think the re-recordings of this and later the re-recording of George Best are absolutely essential parts of the band's discography. The band never really had, I think, enough time or enough money in the early days to give the songs, the luxury and justice that the songs really deserved. They were able to do it with Tommy, and they did it with George Best as well. Re-recorded it, and I think that it's really very, very strong indeed. So this, A Wedding Present album. This, by the way, is the most recent studio album by The Wedding Present. Well, sort of. But it's an absolutely essential piece of listening. So if you like The Wedding Present, give Tommy 30 a listen. Give it your time, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. It's a great record, and it's got sleeve notes by Terry, writing about how some of the songs on Tommy were even more frenzied than the ones on George Best. And whilst Terry had played a number of them live, they're very, very fast songs, as she describes. They've got extremely athletic bass lines, which is a very nice way of saying they're very fucking difficult to play. And I think Charlie, Danielle and Terry did a really great job of playing the songs live. As she said, by the first gig, after copious rehearsals, it looked like we were just about going to pull it off. Well, I saw the first gig at the Tunbridge Wells Forum. I think it was on the 2nd of February 2018. I'd seen the band less than 2 months before at the Dover Booking Hall, which was coming at the end of the George Best tour. And by the time we got to the 2nd of February 2018, 7 weeks later, the band had changed guitarists, they changed bass players, they changed 20 of the 22 songs in the set. And they were bloody brilliant, actually, because when I saw them at Tunbridge Wells, I wasn't sure. Because, as I said before, Tommy is not my favourite Wedding Present album, because I think the speed and pace of the songs exists perhaps sometimes to hide some of the shortcomings in the songwriting. But when they played it live, I was like, this is brilliant. Just the bands are always excellent live. Actually, that's not strictly true. I have seen the worst Wedding Present gig of all time, but I'll talk about that later. But no, they did an excellent job here. With the album, and I think you should buy it. If you like The Wedding Present, please buy Tommy 30. If nothing else, no bands are touring at the moment, no bands are making any money, so please go and do that. The second thing is, it's a snapshot in time of a lineup of the band that doesn't exist anymore, and it's worth having. So Tommy, in conclusion, if anyone is interested in hearing me talk for 40 minutes about the Wedding Present compilation album, I don't know, there's about 20 different people that do YouTube channels about Clarence Creedwater Revival and Foghat, God knows what else, or Bob Dylan acetates. So why can't someone do this? I don't know. No one's telling me I can't. But Tommy, if you've got the opportunity to get it, this is a definitive version to go for, the Edsel Records 2014 3 CD and DVD edition of it. If you love that, fantastic. Welcome to a brand new world. You've got a lot more records that you need to buy. But also do pick up Tommy 30. Now, as it says on here, blue vinyl, limited to 500 copies. The blue vinyl limited to 500 copies, probably sold out now. Most of the copies come with a CD as well inside the sleeve, so you'll be able to get your digital copy of it. And if you're the kind of person that only listens to vinyl, doesn't listen to CD, rip the CD, stick it into your laptop, and then give the CD to someone who does like CDs and likes the wedding present. They'll thank you forever. Or if not, you can at least maybe, get a pint out to them. By the way, I already have the CD, so if you see me out and you come saying, I'm going to give you a CD of Tommy and now you have to buy me a pint, be like, I've got it like 5 times already. Anyway, I don't even know why I'm telling you that. You probably worked out I've got too many CDs and records by looking behind me and looking at all of these. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up there. In about 2 hours, it's going to turn into June, and I can't believe we're going to get to June. And maybe June is the month where things change in the world, and maybe it isn't. I know society is slowly reopening shops and non-essential retail, although I regard buying DVDs and books and records as essential retail. Non-essential retail has reopened, and it's interesting to see how little some people have changed. There's a lot of people that are out there at the moment. Certainly, I went looking for shoes earlier, and I need to buy shoes because I've barely left the house for a year and a quarter. And I just felt that there were a lot of people that were like, right, I stayed in because that's what I was told to do. Now I don't have to. I'm going to go out. And some people are going to flex straight back to the way things used to be. The problem was the way things used to be. And I think if we go through all of this and we haven't learned something, or we haven't changed in some way, I think it will have all been for nothing. But we'll just have to wait to see. The future is an unwritten country. Yeah, if that isn't a Shakespeare quote, it probably is. No, the future is it the Shakespeare quote? The future is an undiscovered country. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm interested in the future. I'm going to be spending the rest of my life there. I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about old records and old bands. And if you gave me the option, if you said to me, well, you can have a new wedding present album of new songs, or you can have a new wedding present album of songs you've been listening to for the past 30 years, I'm always going to take the songs I haven't heard. But that is not the choice which I get to make. The choice I get to make is, if there's a choice between actually re-recordings of songs that are done in a slightly less broke, hurried, cheap, tinny, crappy fashion, if I get an opportunity to get to hear those songs recorded properly in a studio with an appropriate budget that the songs deserve, hell yeah, I'm going to take those. And I'm really glad, by the way, that Tommy and George Best have been re-recorded and reissued, because both of those albums sounded a little cheap and a little hurried, because that's exactly what they were. But you can't know how you've got to where you are without knowing how you've got there, which is a nice way of saying, you've got to respect your history, but also look forward to the future, because it's only just begun. I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you for listening to me talk about a wedding present album for 44 minutes. And I hopefully will see some of you again. I suspect less of you are going to watch this than watch some of the other ones, because obviously this band aren't quite so big and aren't so popular. But trust me, I'm going to be doing this as long as I can, because I'm never going to run out of opinions. What I am going to do is I'm going to try to avoid giving opinions about things that clearly don't matter, because I'm certainly not going to pass an opinion upon something I've got no interest in, because what's the point? I've talked myself into a corner. I should stop, and that is where I'm going to stop. Next time round, probably going to be the weekend. Don't know what I'm going to be talking about. Haven't got a clue yet. Absolutely no idea. If you've got a suggestion, put it in the comments. What I will do is I'll also put links to wedding present live shows and stuff like that. So if you don't know what they sound like, you can give them a listen. What I will say is Tommy is by no means their best album. It's probably my least favourite of their albums, actually. But that Tommy is an embryo. It's a nut and a seed, and from that an enormous tree of Windrock will grow, and it will be fantastic. And I love it all. They're one of my favourite bands. So thanks for your time. I'm going to stop now. Be nice in the comments. Stay beautiful, and I will see you all again, hopefully in a few days when I'm talking about a different band. Thank you and bye.